So here's a puzzle for you. How can one single company be behind one of the greatest humanitarian acts in business history, and also one of its most tragic scandals? It's a tale of two very different drugs. And the answer, well, it really gets to the heart of a huge shift in how we think about the purpose of a company today.
Okay, just look at this contrast. On one side, you have Mectizin, a genuine miracle drug given away for free, forever, saving millions of people from a horrific disease called river blindness. And on the other side, Vioxx, a blockbuster painkiller that was yanked from the market after being linked to thousands of deaths, both from the same company, Merck. So how on earth does that happen? What went so incredibly right and what went so catastrophically wrong?
The answer to that question is way bigger than just one company. It actually cracks open this really powerful idea at the core of modern business. And we're going to use this story from Merck to unpack it all. And here's what makes this whole thing even crazier. This was the founding philosophy of the company. George W. Merck himself said, "Medicine is for the people, the profits follow." He believed that if you just focus on doing good for people, the money will come naturally. So that vision makes the Vioxx disaster seem like it came from another planet. Something must have changed. Well, the answer is all wrapped up in a fundamental shift in business thinking. You see, we've been moving away from a world where profit was the only thing that mattered to a much, much bigger idea: stakeholder strategy. This is basically the new playbook for understanding what makes a company not just profitable, but genuinely successful and sustainable.
So what in the world is stakeholder strategy? It's pretty simple at its core. It's the idea that a company isn't an island. To really win in the long run, it has to think about its entire network, not just the people who own stock. The big goal is to create what we call shared value for everyone who has a stake in the game.
And when we say stakeholders, who are we actually talking about? Well, it's this huge interconnected web. Inside the company, sure, you've got your employees, your stockholders, the board. But then you look outside, and you've got customers, suppliers, governments, and the actual communities where the company operates. A truly smart strategy has to find a way to balance the needs of all these different groups. But that brings up a really important question, right? With all these people making demands, how does a leader decide who gets priority? How do you figure out what really matters? Well, it turns out there's a practical playbook that managers can use to sort through all the noise. Leaders basically size up every stakeholder's claim based on three key things. The first one is power. It's pretty straightforward. Can this group actually make the company do something it doesn't want to do? Think about a big government agency, or maybe thousands of customers organizing a boycott. That's power. The second thing they look for is legitimacy. Is the stakeholder's request seen as fair and appropriate? For example, your customers have a totally legitimate claim that your products should be safe. Your employees have a legitimate claim to a safe place to work. It's about whether the claim is considered valid. And the final piece of the puzzle is urgency. Does this need to be dealt with right now? A product recall that's all over the news, a sudden collapse in your supply chain. Those are urgent claims that you just can't put on the back burner. So you take those three attributes, power, legitimacy, and urgency, and they become the secret sauce for this 5-step analysis. Leaders use this process to map out who their stakeholders are, figure out what they want, and then, crucially, decide how to respond in a way that's good for the business and good for society. Now, that fourth question on the list, what are our social responsibilities, is such a big deal that it gets its own framework. This is the whole concept of corporate social responsibility, or CSR, and it's really about understanding the different layers of a company's duties. It all starts at the bottom, with the foundation, economic responsibilities. Let's be real, a company has to make money to stay in business. If it's not profitable, it can't pay its employees, it can't innovate, it can't do anything else. This is square one. So once you're profitable, the next layer you have to build is legal responsibilities. Every business has to play by the rules. Laws are basically the bare minimum standard of behavior that society has agreed on. You just have to follow them. But this is where the truly great companies start to separate themselves. The third layer is ethical responsibilities. This is all about doing what's right and fair, even if there's no law telling you that you have to. This is where you build deep, lasting trust with people. And then, at the very top of the pyramid, you have philanthropic responsibilities. This is about being a great corporate citizen, actively choosing to give back, to make your community and the world a better place. This is where a company goes from just being a business to being a force for good. Okay, so we've got our toolkit now, we understand stakeholder strategy, and we've got the CSR pyramid.
So let's circle all the way back to our original mystery and use these ideas to finally solve the Merck paradox.
Let's start with the miracle. Back in 1987, Merck's CEO made a truly legendary call. He decided to give away their new drug, Mectizan, completely free of charge for all time to fight river blindness. It was a perfect echo of what the founder said: medicine is for the people.
I mean, this was a masterclass in stakeholder strategy. They teamed up with the World Health Organization, delivered over 1 billion treatments, and literally wiped out the disease in whole countries. They checked every single box on the CSR pyramid. They were profitable, legal, ethical, and philanthropic. It was a massive win for society and a huge win for their reputation.
And now for the catastrophe. Vioxx was a smash hit, a painkiller that raked in billions. But the strategy behind it was the exact opposite of Mectizan. In this case, the company chose to chase short-term profits above everything else, including the safety of their most important stakeholder, the patients taking the drug. The timeline here is just brutal. The FDA started raising red flags about heart risks way back in 2000, but for the next 4 years, the company allegedly hid evidence and kept marketing the drug aggressively. This was a complete failure of their legal and ethical duties. They ignored the urgent, legitimate, and powerful claims of both patients and regulators.
And the price of that failure? A mind-blowing $57 billion in value, completely wiped out. That number says it all. Ignoring your stakeholders isn't just bad ethics, it's disastrous business. They destroyed way more value than the drug ever made.
So what's the bottom line here? The crucial point is that making money for shareholders and creating value for society are not enemies. They are two sides of the exact same coin. A good strategy is a stakeholder strategy. If you want to succeed for the long haul, you have to create shared value. The Mectizan story built that kind of lasting value. The Vioxx story blew it all up. And that really leaves us with one final thing to think about. When you look around at the huge companies that shape our world today, which ones do you think are really living by this stakeholder model? And which ones might be making the same exact mistakes that led Merck down the path to Vioxx? The answer tells you a whole lot about who's actually built to last.